Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. As Mike Drennan said, it's very early for a Geeksvana show. It is indeed. I'm just coming on today. We're trying out a slightly new format from the point of view of when we have breaking news stories, that type of thing, to be able to bring a bit of the updates to you in a live format, especially when we've got something like a video to react to, so that you're able to interact with me in the live chat. And thank you to everyone who has joined us already, but also comment below with timestamps, etc., on the replays with the new timestamp system, comment system that YouTube's having. So I thought this live interactive kind of format might actually help from that point of view, although I am trying out a couple of new bits of tech, so I apologize if I stick my finger across the top. So we'll get to the point, shall we? So we've one of the first recordings of a police officer approaching a drone flyer that I have seen since the new UK police powers have come into effect. Today we're going to look at who, if anyone, is in the wrong. So hey everyone, and welcome to Geeksvana. My name is Sean. Hopefully you all know me by now. Firstly, I want to thank the many people who have reached out to us today to share this video, which we're going to be discussing today. It's originally from a TikTok account called Greater Manchester Media YouTube, which is being quoted as being from an independent journalist from Manchester, so a man with a camera, essentially. There's a link in the description below to that TikTok account. Looking at the source, they do seem to feature a decent amount of audit type content, and I've no way of verifying many of the facts, and I would therefore be slightly wary in terms of knowing whether this was the first time the drone operator was approached or any of the other surrounding facts whatsoever. Today we're purely looking at the interaction and assessing the flight from really the information we can gain. Again, for context, the operator appears to be flying a DJI Mini 2. Let me just stop that. Although we have no way of confirming if there are any accessories attached, taking it over the 250 gram limit. For the purposes of this video, we're going to assume that it is factory standard and the operator, who does seem to have some grasp of the rules. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Now, we're also going to have to assume here that the airspace is clear, of course. For those of you watching at home along, let me know your thoughts in the comments, live chat, and the replay comments afterwards. As ever with Geeksvana content, your input and thoughts are as important as the story itself. So let me know, and I look forward to having some interesting conversations with you guys on this, as we always do. I've already entered a few interesting conversations on this on the Facebook forums, etc. So for those who have not seen it, I'm going to go through the video itself and actually show you and pause along the way, essentially, to show you what is actually happening. Let me just first of all bring that up and let me just trim the audio to that very, very slightly so we don't get all that traffic noise in the background. Okay, yeah, so as I say, first of all, for those of you who have seen, I'm going to play the clip now in segments and break down in terms of my own observations and opinions. And that's what these are. These are my own opinions and observations as to who is in the right and who is in the wrong. So let's start the clip first of all.
No, it's an offence.
It's not an offence.
It is an offence under the FIA. No, you're not. On the FIA guidelines, you can't fly it near people.
You can fly it above 50 metres above people.
No, you can't, mate.
Mate,
look at the guidance, you can't. Can you bring it down?
I can bring it down, yeah.
Please,
yeah.
you will. I don't want to have to confiscate it.
So firstly, we have a situation which is clearly not helping anyone. The officer in question really doesn't know his stuff. It's not a criticism of the police officer, but he doesn't know his stuff. He's quoting old regulations and using what appears to be Formula One racing body, FIA, instead of the correct CAA. It feels like perhaps he's almost mixing together the FAA and CAA together and coming up with a new regulator. Either way, if a police liaison officer is approaching a drone flyer in this kind of situation, I would hope they'd be aware of the latest guidance. I would not normally be so tough on officers, etc., but this is someone actively engaging with a drone flyer, and the issue here is that without quoting the correct legislation and governing body, in my opinion, the officer starts to lose credibility with the individual he's trying to deal with. In terms of the manner and style of the approach, I've got no issue with that, as he is, in his mind, attempting to prevent a crime and ensure public safety. So I have no issue from that point of view. Now, the drone operator's response is also incorrect.
What if you could just bring it down?
If I landed it, mate, yeah. You'll have to watch out, because I know I'm not allowed to land it.
Which we'll just come back to again here.
FIA, no, you're not. On the FIA guide.
I can't fly my drone.
No, it's an offence.
It's not an offence.
It is an offence under the FIA. No, you're not. On the FIA guidelines, you can't fly it near people.
can fly it above 50 metres above people.
So here I think his quote of 50 metres above people might be more to do with privacy guidance rather than the legality of the flight itself. However, I would call into question the officer's response here again. He is insistent that you can't fly over people full stop and advising him to check the guidance, which is technically incorrect. Although again, that does not mean the flight is legal. At this point, I'm wondering if someone else who knows the regulations has actually sent this liaison officer, because of course that is their job, with a brief to stop the flight rather than the officer himself knowing much about the guidance and regulations itself. Okay, so then in my opinion, the officer brings things under control very quickly and professionally by insisting the operator to land his drone at the threat of confiscation.
Mate, look at the guidance, you can't. Can you bring it down?
I can bring it down, yeah.
Please,
yeah.
if you would. I don't want to have to confiscate it because obviously it's a voluntary regulations. But if you could just bring it down, that'd be great.
Try landing it.
Okay, in my opinion, apart from getting the actual guidance, regulations and regulator name wrong, the way the officer is attempting to deal with the situation seems reasonable to me. Officers will often adopt an aggressive stance if they believe a public safety issue is occurring or, of course, a crime could be committed. Now, the pilot then brings the drone back to land under the observation of the police officer. It would appear from this video alone that no further action was taken by the police. In this part of the clip, we have a good example. Just let this flow forward a second. And here, across to here, we have a good example here for me. If I were assessing whether or not to take the flight, there are several points of issue. Even though he's flying a sub 250 gram drone, which of course can fly over people and within congested areas with zero separation of people. The first and potentially most significant issue, which I would raise on this one, is Article 241 of the Air Navigation Order, which states a person must not recklessly or negligently cause or permit an aircraft to endanger any personal property. In my opinion, taking off and operating the drone from the middle of the street is not safe. Carrying out the flight next to an active tram line, again, isn't something which I would personally recommend. And in fact, this part of the demonstration where the drone operator backs off, which is good to see, he's trying to be safe, he backs off from people when he's landing, he does actually walk close to the path of active traffic in the junction itself, which again, I'm not exactly sure if I were assessing whether or not to take this flight, those aspects would already rule it out for me personally. Then once the camera moves around, we have a sign of another issue, which of course is perhaps why there is a police liaison officer in the area. And I'm sure one of the most significant issues that they have.
He's no doing that, and he's got all of it now. He did warn him that he would confiscate.
And here we have obviously a large crowd of people. Now, point 5 of the drone code states that you should never fly over people who are crowded together. This does not change for the sub 250 grams drones, and the general guidance to follow is whether or not any of the individuals could easily move out of the way to vacate the area. During a protest, this would obviously not be the case. In fact, marches and rallies is one of the examples stated by the CAA where people are often crowded together. You can see in this shot there are also many people up on the footbridge crossing the road as well. So yes, now I'm going to play the next bit of the clip, which actually shows the drone operator responding to the chap with the camera.
Can you tell us what he just told you?
He just said he's going to confiscate my drone if I carry on flying it here. So I've done my CAA license and my drone license, and I'm allowed to fly it. Like, I know exactly where I'm allowed to fly it.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
So again, I wanted to show that part of the clip from the point of view of giving his opinion, of course, about it. Now, unfortunately, in my opinion, his assessment of the flight varies wildly from my own. Presumably he's talking about the CAA Damares scheme in terms of having his operator ID and flyer ID. Now, I've tried to approach this in terms of how I would have assessed the flight and giving my opinion of the rules in place. I'm not in any position to judge anyone involved in this case. However, the clear party in the wrong here for me is the drone operator. I cannot see any interpretation of the rules where this flight would be legal without some very special permissions from the CAA via an operational authorization. The drone operator has clearly put in the research and attempted to ensure he knows the rules, and that is good. However, for some reason, he even despite the fact that he states he's aware of all of the rules and knows them well, for him to have missed two major sections of guidance, which regulation clearly explained the CAA drone code on the same website that you register of an operator ID and a flyer ID test, it's not as if you have to delve into the dark corners of the CAP 722 to find those particular rules. So yes. So in terms of the officer, as I stated earlier, I would have liked to see someone who is policing drone operators to at least know the regulations he's quoting. I felt to me it was a little bit like acting on briefing from another party who did not know the rules, because although he quoted some incorrect information, he was in the right about the need to land the aircraft and not fly there. And again, to be fair, no further action was actually taken. Overall, this feels like a situation which shows the importance of education in the hobby, and especially to prevent actions by the authorities to change the sub 250 gram rules, permitting congested flights and flights over people, etc., with our little drones. There's a lot to learn, but if you're going to stand in the street and claim to know the rules, then you should at least have a very good, it shouldn't memorize, but a very good in-depth knowledge of the actual CAA drone code website itself. Now, hopefully, with time, the police officers will also move their own knowledge forward and be able to at least correctly identify the regulator and quote the correct reason for wanting the drone to land. Perhaps the officer could have even been more vague and even said, I have been informed that you are breaching this, etc. But, you know, there are different ways. I'm sure as time passes that might happen. Now, I've personally no issue with the way the officer dealt with the problem, which seemed to focus on resolving the safety issue rather than looking to prosecute the flyer. I note that the officer did not check the drone as to whether or not it was displaying an operator ID. Again, whether that's through knowledge or just through wanting to resolve the situation and move on, because obviously they've got a very large crowd heading towards that situation. So there we have it. Let me know in the comments on the replay here what you think about this. I'm really looking forward to hearing the points of views and having those discussions. I'm going to very quickly just go through the live chat as well, just to get some feedback from people in there. I'm going to replay with the audio turned down the clip itself while I do this. So hi, thank you everybody for joining us who did join us in the chat today. A good audience in for a very impromptu live stream, so I really do appreciate it. Chuck Kovaction, hi, good to see you. Yes, Chuck was asking who's actually flown it, who recorded this. This was actually by an independent, somebody who calls himself an independent journalist in the Manchester area. They've got a YouTube account and a TikTok account. As I said at the beginning, we can't verify the ins and outs of this footage, so I'm only purely reacting to what we can see on this video itself. So that's who filmed it. Cryptoman 5000, wow, the guy gets angry at brown people too fast. Well, yeah, I can understand exactly where you're coming from that point of view. I think, to be honest, this is down to the training from the point of view of attempting to ensure that you adopt an aggressive position, which I think police in most of the world will do that. Covaction dronography officer is distracting the pilot. If the drone is being operated in an unsafe manner or potentially committing a crime, they are actually allowed to do that. And as Cryptoman 5000 says as well, on balance, flying from the street is just stupid. I agree with that with you, sir. Mike Drennan, pretty skilled pilot. So the way the guy zipped it back and does a quick hand landing. These drones are awesome for hand landing, aren't they? Which is good. And Mike 130274, the pilot is stupid, to be fair. Also, there is a film crew there and something else is going on. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think, I know this is only a small drone. I'm not trying to say that, you know, a Mini 2 is going to cause any particular harm or anything else like that. But if we're talking about protecting the hobby and being able to fly our own DJI Mini 2s and our own sub 250 gram drones in congested areas and with zero separation of people, we really need to protect that and try and at least follow the drone code itself. Again, you don't have to delve into the deep, dark reaches of the CAP 722 to find these rules. It's pretty much straightforward. KH Drone, hi guys, I've just got back from working security at the Tramlines Festival and we had a drone flying over, but did not directly fly over the crowd and stayed just outside the fence line. That's interesting, KH Drones. Thank you for that feedback. Very interesting, because there are going to be a lot more drone flights which are perfectly legal, which even a short time ago wouldn't have been, especially with the good old DJI Mini 2 or sub 250 gram drones. Other sub 250 gram drones are available, although I do love the Mini 2, as I know many of you out there do as well. So there we go. That's it for today, really. Lindsay Hayes, hi. Just one of our regulars want to get his comment in there as well. Oh dear, oh dear. In a road, by a tram line, near a crowd. Pilot, I'd err on the side of caution. But was that road closed? No, it actually wasn't physically closed, although of course it's completely blocked by people. So yes, I know exactly what you're saying there, Lindsay. My issue was that the tram line right next to it was very clearly active, and the junction that the pilot was stood near and then moved back into when he went to hand catch his drone was actually live. There was actually a car coming out of there. So again, in my opinion, it's very difficult. I don't want to judge people on drone flights. This is not, and it will never be a channel where I pull up someone's drone flight and say, oh, this guy's an XYZ and he shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, because I'm not there. I'm not flying that drone. I haven't assessed the airspace, everything else like that. From the point of view of how I would assess that flight, I would say Article 241 and also flying over crowds of people would be the two main ones that I would personally assess the flight to not be permissible, frankly. So yeah, so there we go. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I really do appreciate it. If you don't mind, if you could all just, before you leave, pick up your litter. Old joke. But also, with that cheesy joke in mind, could you smash that like button for me? I'd really appreciate it. The more likes we get early on in a video going live, the more it gets sent around the algorithms, and the quicker we can get to 10,000 subs, which we're closing in on at the moment, which again, I appreciate everybody's help with. And thank you very much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. I will see you very soon. We've got a lot of recorded content coming out. We've just finished the studio next door, so we now got our different spaces to record from, and we've got all sorts of things coming along, like the UK drone rules, all of them within 8 minutes, which is a fun challenge, and I've nearly perfected it down to the point where I can get that within 8 minutes. And we've also got a long-term review of the DJI Mini 2 with a specific aspect, a specific taste, as it were, towards the UK marketplace as well, and the UK rules, which I've had a lot of fun filming, because with our new tech area of one of our studios, it's a very different environment to be able to record things in. So it gets me out from behind a desk and gets me interacting with the drones a bit more. So great. So thank you very much, guys. Really do appreciate it. I've just seen the likes jump up, so I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on Geeksvana Live.